Hey traders, this is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your recap for Thursday, October 25th. And big reports out after the close. Everybody was very concerned about what Snap was going to do. And as you can see, it's trading down. We'll see how the market is. I'm just kidding. Regarding Snap, Amazon and Google, we'll get to those. Sorry, just a little bit of humor. So Amazon reported they had great profit numbers, but the sales number, also their guidance was weak. Pretty much the same thing with Google too. So I don't have to really go over their earnings as well, but because it kind of seemed like the two of them had the same thing going on there with in terms of guidance. Here this was the numbers right after the reaction right after the close from one analyst, one editor saying a bit light. Web services continue to cook with. They're saying that I think the cloud numbers also came in good, but a lot of other mixed data that I'm reading here about employee growth, about something with Whole Foods not meshing properly. So in any event, it is what it is. From a technical basis, basically back to where it was from yesterday. So that whole gain taken out, I think this is a good example of what kind of market that we're in right now. It's when you see profits, you have to take them. Again, when I say you, this video is always for information purposes only, no advice or recommendations or anything like that. But this is the market that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Huge swings day to day. And, I mentioned in yesterday's video that, I mentioned a lot of cautious and a lot of things that I was looking at, everything closing on the lows. And then today, you had a chance to make some money basically scalping. And with these market moves, kind of sticking to the same things, I kind of revisit this stuff at seems like every other day. But right now we have a pretty volatile market going on, and it's allowing you to, if you're thinly positioned and you don't have a lot of positions on like me, then it kind of gives you a basis to kind of go after some trades intraday. And then just basically trade them from support to resistance. And the I don't make enough mention of this. I kind of think a lot of times that everybody knows the indicators that I have, but this one that you see the boxes, that's our market webs indicator. And that's something that I have on my website. It's a proprietary indicator, but it works very nice. If you look at the Qs today, they behaved pretty well in terms of the value area. We got into value for the day, and you'll see this in a lot of different charts. Things got all the way went from one end of the value area to the other. A lot of names did not get through the value area. Like if we look at Google for the day, just to see where that's going. But yeah, you could see this one actually poked its head above value for the day. So again, basically, just like Amazon, almost mirrors of one another for the price action that they did today, and where they are now. So what did I do today? In terms of trades, I did a lot of scalping. I did a lot of scalping of trades. I added to a couple things. I've got Abbott on, which I put on the other day. I added to Abbott. This one did not make it all the way through the value area. I'm still in Walmart. I don't know if that's going to be affected by Amazon at all. I just kind of left this alone. It did make it got through and took out yesterday's highs, but kind of stalled from there. So I'm in December. I've got some time. I will not be holding that into earnings, but probably look to hold this trade maybe for another couple days to a week. We'll see if it can maybe get above 104, 105-ish today. Other things in terms of price action, I mean, it's just crazy the amount of a couple of things that I went over yesterday. XBI, as great as this was, a 4% move. I sent this out earlier on Twitter, which I thought was quite comical. An up 4% day for XBI, probably one of its biggest days, and only an inside day, and didn't even reclaim any of the short-term moving averages. So I'm not. I said this in the trading room earlier. I'm like, I'm not going to try to predict what happens on a day-to-day basis, but there's not a lot of things that really retook levels today. A huge amount of earnings today. This morning and after the close, I think over 70 companies in the SPX reported, and that's just the SPX alone. So a lot of information to get through. I did trade. I really don't have that much exposure to Amazon or Google, keep in mind, everybody has a little bit of exposure. Unless you're flat stocks in your 401k, in your IRA, in your everywhere, your personal account, unless you don't hold any mutual funds or ETFs, you've got some exposure to this. I was laughing at somebody pretty well known on Twitter a couple earnings reports ago when Facebook tanked, and they're like, "Well, I didn't trade Facebook. What a great job I did." And they were kind of doing a victory lap because they don't own any Facebook. I'm like, "Well, yes, you do. You do own Facebook. You own it indirectly because if you own Qs, SPY, anything, any mutual fund or ETF is going to have, sorry, not anyone, but the majority of those ETFs, I'm correcting myself, the majority of those ETFs have exposure to Facebook, Google, Amazon. So don't do a victory lap just because you didn't trade or you didn't go long the names for earnings. You do have some exposure to it some places. But I didn't in terms of any option trades on in Google or Amazon. So I took a swing. I generally don't put on very large trades for earnings, and I didn't do that either. I bought a call spread because the implied volatility is just too high. I went long Amazon, and I took a small shot at Google as well, and then I also took a shot at Expedia. So hopefully the Expedia results will. I'm long the Expedia. Let's see where it's trading. Hopefully I didn't jinx it. 121 to 126 call spread for Expedia. And I think that was trading through the upper strike, so I've got a chance to make a little bit of money there, which is not coming up. So earnings, or what else today? I talked about XBI, the biotechs. What else performed very well? The Chinese internets. I can go over a little bit of today's option activity, which I didn't do that yesterday, just because the price action was tremendous enough to talk about yesterday. But there was a nice block of EFA calls, 40,000 of those. That's the international developed market ETF. So a lot of Europe, a lot of Japan in that ETF. Also, KWeb did see outright calls being bought there. So those were a couple orders. A couple other things which I like to pay attention to after earnings flow, and we saw that in a couple names. Royal Caribbean. We're also continuing to see Caterpillar calls. There was actually a larger block of Caterpillar. I don't know why it's not in my recap here. But Caterpillar, the two orders that caught my attention yesterday, because I didn't mention this, was Cliffs, November calls, and FTC. FTC, I believe, reports Monday, and they keep buying FTC calls. So I think that's one to watch going forward. More calls went up again today. But look at that. Expedia is giving back up to 122. I knew I would jinx it. But so that's it. Underperformers today, a little bit different. Utilities. I talked about XLU yesterday. That I used my indicators to either take trades or not take trades. This was a good example of not taking a trade. This hit, my screen will adjust here in a second. But XLU did take out that purple line. I do not like to start trades when there is a virgin point of control being taken out. So I held off from that. XLU was the worst performing sector today, down 1.5%, other than the gold miners, which were down a lot because of Newmont, I believe, had a bad earnings quarter. Consumer staples, which I talked up yesterday, they did finish in the green. Don't know if that move is over. I did take off my XLP. I had a small XLP trade on. I took that trade off today. I didn't like the look of the candle yesterday, so I took that trade off. I could always get back into it if I think there's going to be more of a defensive mode. For now, I'm long Walmart. And that's it. I did not add any swing trades. I did a lot of scalping today. And no new swing trades today. The only thing I did was I added to some Abbott exposure. And, until I feel more confident about this market, where we've got a little bit of price action taking out some levels and getting above some of the short-term moving averages, not just inside days, which I think we saw a lot all over the place. I just go over the major indices, Qs, which I know are down after hours, so I guess you could look at NQ. But just an inside day, and for most, there were some things that I noticed that that took out. But yeah, I mean, you could see, you know, dare I say that we are not out of the woods yet. Um, S&P also, looking at futures trading right now, not taking out the opening of where we were. I was looking at Salesforce today, which I always view as a name that people gravitate back into after a pullback. Just barely an inside day too. At one point, it was actually above the open, but big fat inside day. Semis, which I think you have to remain on your watch list, considering the volatility there, inside day as well. So great to have a bounce, and we might set up again for these, volatile days where you can really swing back and forth intraday and take advantage of it. But as far as establishing positions and options, swing trades, for now I stay bare bones in terms of positioning there. What else has been a great sector? IGV, software names, with Microsoft reporting, which Microsoft is in this ETF, also an inside day. Speaking of Microsoft, wasn't able to close above the open as well. So this is really there's nothing to hang your hat on, I would say, for price action today. What else? Any other sectors that I'm just glancing over? Steel had a good day today. Inside day. The builders, burning off all these oversold levels. Excuse me. This was a really, really oversold level, but still, you got another version point of control down here. So that's it for today's recap. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.